Starting Warhammer 40K has never been easier, but it's also never been easier to waste hundreds of pounds. Every day, new players are told to buy huge armies, expensive tools, and dozens of paints before they even start. Don't do that. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly how I would start 40k if I was starting from scratch. Chapter 1. Forget everything you've heard. Most new players are told that when they start the hobby that they have to buy a 2,000 point army to play the game. Now, while the game is designed to play 2,000 points, it is also designed to play 1,000 points and also smaller games like Combat Patrol, Kill Team, and all those sorts of games. When you buy 2,000 points, you'll have a load of miniatures that may not be a coherent army and build up a massive pile of shame, which is a famous thing in the hobby, which is basically where you have lots of miniatures that you haven't built and painted yet and probably will never get time to do because you have so many and maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed to be able to do those miniatures. But so my recommendation would be to start small. There's a few ways to do this. There are brand new starter sets that are out. There's actually a starter set that's just come out, which has 2 combat patrols of each army from the Orcs and the Space Marines, which is fantastic. There's an introductory set, which gives you a small squad of Space Marines and a lieutenant and a small squad of Orc boys and an Orc knob. These starter sets are fantastic to try and just get you in the game and to just give you a good gauge on whether you enjoy the painting side, the playing side, and all those little cool things. For example, when I started my Night Lords, I just started converting miniatures. So for me, this is how I do it because I really enjoy the hobby side. So you don't just need to go out and buy a combat patrol or just start an army. Sometimes you just have some inspiration to really want to do one thing. And if you have that inspiration to do one thing, like you really enjoy one model, it's totally okay to just go out and buy that model to start off with, just to get a gauge on the painting side. Also, the new starter set comes with a magazine and a load of cool things to try and get into it. Another thing I'd recommend is have a read up on some lore as well, because the lore is really fun. If you don't really like the lore, then fair, then you don't have to. But there's lots of reels and content online about the lore, and I guarantee you'll be able to find some lore on the faction that interests you. So yeah, we're going to start small combat patrol, small unit, and then we'll go on to the next section. Choose one army. Now, when you choose your army, there's going to be a few factors that take place. Now, some people would like to play the competitive side a little bit more, so they want to have an army with synergy and be able to have a good chance at winning all of their games if they play correctly, which is also a completely okay way to play the game, by the way. So some people just don't want to turn up and lose every game with a poor army, which is fine, which would take a bit more research, but the meta does change every 3 months, so you just need to make sure that whatever you pick is pretty versatile and is going to be able to be relevant all the time. However, if you're just starting, I know some people don't like this opinion, but I would go for the rule of cool. Like, go through all of the factions and go through the ones that you like and go through the ones that you don't like. And I would pick the ones that really vibe with you. So go through if you really like the look of Space Marines, you've read the lore, you really like it, you think they're awesome, play Space Marines. If you've read the Orc lore and see how they interact with the Warhammer 40k universe and you just really like their vibe instead, then play Orcs. All of these armies have a different aesthetic, have a different way of playing, and have a different approach to the game. And every single one will suit someone, somewhere, very, very well. So I would forget win rates if I was just starting, and I would forget tier lists if I was just starting, mainly because I think that there's better ways to choose. So I think I would go for one that's aesthetically pleasing, because the game is quite balanced right now, so it's not like you can't win any games with certain factions. Rule of cool works, but sometimes people do just want to play something strong. So both of which are okay to do. Don't feel villainized if you want to play a good army. I also play competitively as well. I play both. I like a bit of a mix because I play a crusade and I play tournaments. So it's nice to have a mix there. So you've got a small unit. Awesome. So you've started small. Now you're going to look at a starter set to add to this. So bulk out the army a bit and to give you a few more units that you can build and paint now that you're a bit more familiar with your building and painting skills. So as I said earlier, there's a starter set that has a combat patrol of each of the Space Marines and the Orcs, and the contents there are really, really good value for money. It comes with dice, tape measure, the rulebook, and all that sort of thing. Now these are great if you want to start Space Marines or Orcs, but maybe they're not your vibe. So if they're not, there's another way to do this. You look at combat patrol and then buy all of the individual pieces separately, like the dice, the tape measure. You can get them relatively cheap from third-party retailers. Like a tape measure you can get for like £3 or something like that, which is not a lot of money. And dice itself, you can find them anywhere with your own designs. You can even get them custom made if you really want to go that far. But ultimately, you don't have to buy everything at once. This is the stage where normally people might want to go out and buy a 2,000 point army. Now, if you want to get to playing 2,000 points as soon as you can, because you're going to be going off and playing tournaments and that sort of thing, then go for it. Get your 2,000 points. No problem at all. But if I was starting the hobby again, I would start small and go and take a slightly different approach. Because starting small is great. If you have a combat patrol and a couple of units by now, you probably have about 1,000 points. And that 1,000 points you can go and take to local game stores and go and have a few games. Because 1,000 points is still a completely okay size of army to play. I play Crusade myself. We don't normally go above 1,250 points. You basically buy points for your army, and then you bid for like points that you play. You can buy units for your army, and then you like interchange them with your 1,000 points, which is what we do in Crusade. But ultimately, we don't really go above 1,000 points because we want to have quick games so we can get a few of them in. And ultimately, that gives us a really good little social gathering so we can play these games, which is really, really fun. Chapter 4, what you actually need to build and paint your minis. So you need clippers, plastic glue, primer. This is optional, but I do recommend you get primer. Your paint is going to adhere a lot better to the surfaces, but it's going to protect the work that you do on top of that miniature. You need a brush as well. So the brush, you can choose Games Workshop brushes, like a medium brush, a layer brush. I like a Cable Skolensky brush, which is a size 2. This looks quite a big brush, but the tip is really good and it's going to last quite a while. You can get an entire set of those for like 25 quid, which is really, really good. And it gives you 6 brushes, but you can ultimately find individual brushes, which are also in the region of between 8 and 11 quid, depending on where you look. There's also other brushes that you can get, like Element Games brushes, which are also really, really good. And Artist Opus brushes, which are also really, really good. The Artist Opus brushes are a little bit more expensive, but they also are very, very high quality, and I would also recommend those. Paints. Now, when I started, it was just Citadel, really. There was Vallejo to an extent, but there wasn't really loads and loads of options for the types of paints you used. So it was basically Citadel or nothing, because you didn't really know that Vallejo existed when you first started. So I have a mix. I have Citadel paints, I have Vallejo paints, and I have Army Warpaint Fanatic paints. They are all fantastic paints, and I do like to have a couple of P3 paints in there as well, and some of the Duncan Rhodes Academy paints as well. I really like White Star, for example. And having a mix of these is fine. When you first start, obviously, having 4 different brands of paint is obviously intimidating to choose from. What I would do is just pick one and roll with it. Like, I think the Squidmart Essential Paint sets are fantastic. I really like those. I think they're a really, really good value for money. And you actually get a miniature in there as well, which you can paint and get some practice on, which is really, really cool. The Citadel paints have their own little paint set, which has just come out, which actually helps you paint all of the miniatures that you have in the starter set, which is also great. So you can buy that and have all the colors that you need to paint every miniature in that set, including the Orcs and the Space Marines, which is super good value for money. And the Army Paint and Fanatic paints have a few of their own sets as well, and the range itself is fantastic. Their speed paints are great. They also have pens, which you can do trim with and all that sort of thing, which are super beginner friendly. And I know a lot of people who use those as well and have had a lot of success. So if you want to use those, go for it. My recommendation would be pick a paint set to paint those miniatures, and then paint those miniatures. But if I was going to recommend one, I'd recommend the Warhammer 40K paints and tools set, as it comes with a variety of different paints in there, and some clippers, and a brush. So it comes with everything included. Now that's actually £27.50 as well, which is super good value for money for the paints and the stuff inside. However, you probably could get each individual piece cheaper and buy paints specifically for your army cheaper, but it does give you a range of paints to try out and get a feel for. Personally, after painting Warhammer for about 16 years, I actually mainly use Vallejo now because I really, really like the Vallejo paints. They just work for me really, really well. But ultimately, contrasts as well are an amazing tool. So if you want to use contrasts, it's pretty simple. You prime black, you spray with a lighter color, and then you go with contrast over areas. And it's going to create this natural gradients on those areas and get minis done really quickly for you. Chapter 5, paint one squad. Don't try and do a batch of 40 models in a row. Don't go out and buy more yet, I would also recommend. I'd just paint one squad with the tools and the paints that you have available to you now. Now, there's a reason for this. When you go through and paint the squad that you have, you may notice you might be missing a paint somewhere that you want to use to try and do a metallic area that's different to the paint set that you have. Or you might spot that there's more detail on these minis than you may have anticipated, and you might need a smaller brush to give you a bit more stability there. But more importantly, it's going to let you have something to aspire to for the rest of your army, because you're going to have something finished, something in front of you, and you're going to get a lot of joy out of this. Now, even now, I paint in small batches and finish models, and then I go on to the next set of models, mainly because it gives you a really good amount of time to put into each individual model, and it's going to make your painting a lot better as well in time, because when you're painting a batch of 40, you sort of end up rushing, and you get a little bit burnt out when you're painting the 39th Marine with ultramarine blue. So you just want to get them done. Now, 5-mans are a nice little, entry point. Obviously, 10-mans work as well, depending on the difficulty of the paint job. But, small batches is the key bit here. Just don't try and paint your entire army in one sitting, because you're going to get burnt out really, really quickly doing that. And after that, enjoy your hobby journey. You're going to have miniatures painted. You're going to have everything you need to carry on buying miniatures and building and painting miniatures, and your process for the miniatures locked down. So after that, you just keep going. You keep building your army, and you end up with 2,000 points, and you can go off and play small RTTs, or go off and play Crusade. Go to your local game store and get some games in. And you can get really immersed in this hobby, just like I did, and still do to this day. So, if you follow these steps, you're going to spend a lot less money than maybe you would have if you didn't have those steps, and that's super fun. But the most important decision out of this entire process is, which army do you play? And I have a lot of videos that might help you make that decision, so please do drop a like and subscribe and go check them out, and it might give you some more information for you. I hope this video was useful to you guys, but I've doubled down on the beginner content. I think people are vibing with it really well, and I'm really enjoying doing it. I've been showing you guys some passion projects from my hobby side of things here and there, but it hasn't really been responded to very well. Doesn't seem that people click on it very much, which is fine, but I'm still going to make them because I like to show you guys what I'm doing with my hobby life, and I think there's some people enjoyed it, which is fun, so I'm going to carry on making those things. So guys, it's been emotional. Much love. Bye-bye.